Hello and welcome to the GOP Josh Show. On today's episode, Mark Cuban, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, announces his plan to stop playing the National Anthem at their home games, and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis responds to not wearing a mask at the Super Bowl in the best way possible. All that and more on today's episode of the GOP Josh Show. Hello and welcome to the GOP Josh Show. My name is GOP Josh. Thank you for tuning in today. You can follow me on Twitter, which is GOP Josh 20, and Instagram, which is GOP_Josh, if you would like. So Mark Cuban says that the Dallas Mavericks will not play the national anthem at their home games and defends their ties with China. The Daily Wire article says, billionaire Mark Cuban came under fire Tuesday morning for having defended communist China as a business partner in light of his decision to banish the national anthem from home games of the NBA's Dallas Mavericks, a team Cuban owns. Representative Lauren Boebert, a Republican from Colorado, slammed the Shark Tank star, tweeting, quote, Mark Cuban won't call out China for its atrocities, but he will order the national anthem not to be played at Dallas Mavericks games. Just another example of how the left hates America. Quote, to be fair, you only have time for one national anthem and they have already got China's to play, mocked conservative host Steve Dacey. So this whole story gets me really upset. Not only is Mark Cuban a privileged white male, as all the social justice warriors like to say, but he's disrespecting the country that's helped him get everything he has in his life. But by not having his team play the national anthem. It doesn't matter if they're going to kneel. I don't support the kneeling, but you need to at least play it, especially with welcoming fans into the arena. Which is what the NBA responded and said themselves. So the NBA, obviously, like I just said, they responded, requiring teams to play the national anthem after Mark Cuban axed song for the Mavericks games, according to Fox News. The NBA is requiring that all teams play the national anthem before games, quote, in keeping with long-standing league policy. Just one day after Dallas Mavericks owner Mark Cuban told The Athletic the team decided not to play it at the home games. NBA Chief Communications Officer Mike Bass released a statement on Wednesday, just a day after Cuban said he had no plans to play the national anthem at any future home games. Quote, with NBA teams now in the process of welcoming back fans into their arenas, all teams will play the national anthem in keeping with longstanding league policy, Bass said. Cuban told the New York Times, quote, we're good with it. So if you were good with it, why did you stop playing it in the beginning? If you actually love this country that gave you everything, Mark Cuban, you are a billionaire, then you would just at least play the anthem. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts on my Twitter page. You can tweet at me, GOPJosh20. I will try to read all my notifications. So Trump is now under criminal investigation in Georgia because of his phone call to the Secretary of State. Georgia prosecutors have launched a criminal investigation into former President Donald Trump for his efforts to challenge the state's presidential election results, according to the New York Times. Fulton County recently elected Democratic prosecutor Fannie Williams sent a letter to state officials on Wednesday requesting that they preserve documents and records related to a January 2nd phone call between then-President Trump and Georgia Secretary of State Ben Raffensperger. The letter specifically said that Trump was under criminal investigation for his conduct during the call, a state familiar official with the letter told the New York Times. Willis considered launching a criminal investigation into the former president for weeks after the full audio of Trump's phone call with Raffensperger was leaked to the press. Former prosecutors told the New York Times what the Fulton County investigators may be looking for in the January 2nd call. Quote, former prosecutors said Mr. Trump's calls might run afoul for at least 3 state laws. One is a criminal solicitation to commit election fraud, which can either be a felony or a misdemeanor. As a felony, it's punishable by at least a year in prison. There's also a related conspiracy charge, which can be prosecuted either as a misdemeanor or a felony. A third law is a misdemeanor offense, intentional interference with another person's performance of election duties. News of the criminal investigation follows a Monday decision by Raffensperger's office to open an administrative investigation into Trump over the phone call. The investigation was prompted by a complaint by George Washington University law professor John Banshoff III. I think this is outrageous. I'm not saying that I support what President Trump said on the call, not that at all. But he was simply asking about the fraud that he thought was there. And obviously, Joe Biden was inaugurated. He is the president now. But Trump has the right to question that. And if you don't want to get phone calls about the election, don't become Secretary of State. So this is actually, they say it's not an opinion article, but it is from the Washington Post that says Rush Limbaugh is ailing, and so is the conservative talk radio industry. Rush Limbaugh is the most successful talk radio host in history, and so is ailing and is getting sick, and so is the media he helped revolutionize over the past 30 years. Faced with aging and shrinking audiences, competition from newer technologies, and financial problems for the biggest station owners, talk radio is in decline, both as a business and a political force. Once a leading platform for popularizing conservative candidates and policies, talk radio is on the verge of becoming background noise, drowned out by a cacophony of voices on podcasts, cable TV, and social media. The format's crisis comes as its biggest star is battling to stay on the air. Indeed, he is battling for his life. Limbaugh, 70, has been frank about his struggle with what he has since and with what he said last year's advanced lung cancer. Quote, "I wasn't expected to make it to October, and then to November, and then to December," he said on air just before Christmas, "and yet here I am." Limbaugh's uncertain future confronts the talk radio business and conservatism generally, with the prospect of losing its most galvanizing figure. Since leaping from a local station in Sacramento to nationally syndicating stardom in 1988, Limbaugh has been the bullhorn behind every important conservative initiative, from the contract with America in the mid-1990s to the Tea Party movement of the Obama era to the ascent of Donald Trump. The rest of it's just talking about former things that Rush said on his show. It's pretty opinionated. It's not even supposed to be any sort of... This just says media. So it doesn't say it's an opinion article anywhere. Let me see at the very bottom. Let's see if... Does it say it's an opinion article? No. It's Paul Vahari is the Washington Post's media reporter. It does not say he is any sort of opinion piece. That sounds quite opinionated to me. Let me know what you think. Like I said on my Twitter, you'll be able to reply to the tweet about this episode coming out. Let me know what you think there. So this really begs the question, when Rush Limbaugh eventually goes off air and eventually passes away, I'm not saying I want that to happen. I'm praying for Rush, of course. But if that happens, what will happen to the conservative talk radio industry? And I believe that we're just getting started. So Rush Limbaugh was obviously the first big voice in conservative talk radio, but there are so many other smaller voices out there. Salem Radio Network. Let me pull up my local Salem station's lineup. There's Sebastian Gorka, Larry Elder, Dennis Prager, of course. We all know Dennis Prager. Charlie Kirk, Hugh Hewitt, Mike Gallagher, all these conservatives that have... That's just on my local Salem station. There are plenty, millions probably, other podcasts and radio shows that are going to keep the flame alive once Rush is gone. And they're going to keep fighting for the same ideals that Rush does. And some of them already have just as large of an influence as Rush Limbaugh. I'm not sure the exact numbers, but the number one podcast, conservative podcast, is The Ben Shapiro Show. And he is one of the largest podcasts, period. But he is one of the largest conservative podcasts, of course. I'm not quite sure the exact numbers. But he has an hour-long podcast every day on Apple Podcasts that gets insane numbers. Let's see the top shows, all categories. I'm on Apple Podcasts right now just to see. 14th top podcast. Dan Bongino is the 12th top podcast. And these are, like, Ben Shapiro, I think he's 34. I'm not sure how old he is. But that's actually impressive. There's a Lincoln Project podcast, which we're not even going to talk about. I could go off about the Lincoln Project, but I don't feel like doing that today. Yeah, there are quite a bit of conservative podcasts on the top of the charts. And that confirms my idea that we will be able to survive without Rush. Louder with Crowder is 69th on the charts here. I'm just scrolling through the charts while I'm talking. We can survive without Trump. 91st is the Charlie Kirk Show. Like I said earlier, Mark Levin is 106th. I know I've had to pass more conservatives now, but we have the conservatives have a good reach, and we will be able to go on without Rush Limbaugh. And I truly believe that we will. I hope you agree. I mean, if you're listening to the show, you're obviously listening to, I think it's fair to say, the largest teenage conservative podcast in Ohio. That is quite the stretch, quite the many categories narrowed down. But if you are listening to this show, you believe that we can go on without Rush, because we are going on right now. So something a little less political, Robinhood. I'm sure you guys have heard of Robinhood. They have currently been, under fire for making it to where you can't trade GameStop. During the whole GameStop frenzy, I have Cash App. It's what I do to trade, and I put $4 into AMC. I don't remember when I did that actually, but right now it's worth $1.49. I have lost $2.50 of AMC. That was the 29th of January, so I've held it like 3 weeks. Diamond hands on Reddit are lying to me. That's okay, but that's not anything near what happened in this situation. So Robinhood is being sued over by a family of, it says Naperville. This is a local ABC 7, which is an ABC affiliate. I'm not quite sure where out of. It looks like Indiana, who died by suicide, believing he lost over $700,000 due to Robinhood. The family of a Naperville man, Illinois, is suing Robinhood after he died by suicide after believing he lost more than $700,000 on the stock trading app. Attorneys for the family said the 20-year-old Alex Kearns connected to the app to his death in a suicide note. He actually saved the screenshot, attached it to his suicide note. It showed a negative cash balance of $730,000, said Ethan Brown, one of the family's attorneys. The Kearns family is now suing the app, demanding to know how the college student was able to get assigned almost $1 million worth of leverage. In this case, you have a 20-year-old man who has no job, is living at home, and has a grand total of about $16,000 to trade, which are very, very complicated. According to the lawsuit, Kearns received an email that led him to believe he suffered a massive loss. The lawsuit claimed Kearns' account was restricted, and his family said the 20-year-old panicked. The lawsuit alleges communications from Robinhood were misleading. Quote, the communication suggested that he owed $730,000, and also that he was going to have to make a margin call within a matter of days, having to come up with $178,000 cash, said the attorney. According to court documents, Kearns tried to contact Robinhood customer service and received an automated reply. So I'm not quite sure if Robinhood is at fault there. I haven't seen everything to do with that. I've just read the articles. But if Robinhood is at fault there, then that is really unfortunate for the family. I'm praying for the family, of course, but we will have to see what comes from that. So Aunt Jemima, we know that she was under fire because she was a racist figure. And they have finally rebranded Aunt Jemima. The new name for the famed Aunt Jemima line of pancake mixes and syrups have been announced: Pearl Milling Company. Parent company Quaker Oats, which is owned by PepsiCo Inc., said in June it was going to distance the line from the old name, which critics said the company conceded was based on a racial stereotype. The repackaged products will hit shelves this coming June. PepsiCo also announced a $1 million commitment to empower and uplift black girls and women. As a part of the repackaging, the logo featuring a black woman will be removed and replaced with an image of a building that has been part of the brand's 131-year-old history. According to the brand's website, quote, Pearl Milling Company was a small mill in the bustling town of St. Joseph, Missouri. Using a pearl milling technique, they produced flour, cornmeal, and beginning in 1889, the famous self-rising pancake mix that would go on to be known as Aunt Jemima. PepsiCo has faced criticism about the name Aunt Jemima for years. In 1989, the brand updated the Aunt Jemima character, removing her headscarf, something linked to the stereotypes rooted in slavery, in favor of a straighter hairdo. Then, in 2014, descendants of the woman they claimed portrayed Aunt Jemima in the 1930s sued Quaker Oats for $2 billion. She was developed a long time ago as kind of a group of stereotypes distilled into a single person, Adweek writer Sam Thielman told CBS This Morning. The plaintiffs, whose case was eventually dismissed by a Chicago judge, alleged it a picture of the relative that made the brand famous. They also alleged that the Quaker Oats have stolen recipes and failed to honor a contract or paid royalties. So I actually went to the grocery store with my aunt the other day, and I bought some Aunt Jemima. It didn't have the logo on it. Nothing on the shelves at my local Kroger had any sort of icon behind the Aunt Jemima name besides just the classic branding. So we will see what goes on there. Pearl Milling Company, I hope it's as good as Aunt Jemima. I'm going to be completely honest. Aunt Jemima's my favorite pancake mix. It's really easy. It's really good. I actually bought syrup these past few time. I hope it tastes the same. That's what I'm really worried about. I think it's stupid that we are canceling these old brands because of they're offensive. People are snowflakes, as people like to say. Yeah, well, we'll have to see. I really hope that it tastes as good as Aunt Jemima did. Have they released the new logo yet? I'm trying to find out if they have or not. I see there's pancakes. It says soon to be known as Pearl Milling Company. It looks like they have. If you're watching the YouTube video or the Rumble video, you can see it here. Here's the new branding. It's the same font, everything, just a different logo, which looks like a building. We will find out. We'll see how it looks when it hits the shelves. So the Trump lawyer of the impeachment trial yesterday was not prepared, I don't think. This is the video from the Washington Post. The strangest lines from the Trump lawyer Bruce Castor's opening statement. Let's just watch that clip.
I'll be quite frank with you. We changed what we were going to do on account that we thought that the House manager's presentation was well done. We are generally a social people. We enjoy being around one another. Senators of the
I'm going to stop that for a second and go back to his first point that he said. So I'm going to replay the first point.
I'll be quite frank with you. We changed what we were going to do on account that we thought that the House manager's presentation was well done. We are
They
social
literally just said that the person trying to prosecute his client was very well done. What? You are literally complimenting the people that are trying to put your clients in jail. I don't know if he's actually going to go to jail if this happens, but they're trying to make it so where he can never run again, and you are complimenting them. That's the first failure. Okay, let's keep playing.
people. We enjoy being around one another. Senators of the United States, they're not ordinary people. And boy, this is a diverse group. We still know what records are, right? On the thing you put the needle down on and you play it. I worked in this building 40 years ago. I got lost then, and I still do. I represent the great state of fill in the blank. I saw a headline, Representative so-and-so seeks to walk back comments about, I forget what it was, something that bothered her. I don't want to steal the thunder from the other lawyers, but Nebraska, you're going to hear, is quite a judicial thinking place. If the individual state legislatures didn't adopt the Constitution, we would not have it. The floodgates will open. As I was going to say originally, it will release the whirlwind. But I subsequently learned since I got here that that particular phrase has already been taken, so I figured I better change it to floodgates.
I don't know what this guy was trying to accomplish here. He seems so unprepared, and reportedly, President Trump was not happy with his performance, and I wouldn't be either. That guy just... it's funny the way that he's not taking his job seriously. It's actually kind of funny for him. So Facebook is trying to censor politics from its platform. This is a CNBC article. Facebook will temporarily show users less political content to some users. Facebook announced Wednesday that it will temporarily reduce the amount of political content on newsfeed for a small percentage of users in certain countries. The move comes after the company announced last month that it will no longer recommend political groups to users and will consider steps to reduce political content in the newsfeed following the insurrection at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. The Text Transparency Project reported last month that the Facebook was used to help organize the pro-Trump rally that led to the insurrection. Facebook said the temporary reduce of newsfeed political content will start this week in Canada, Brazil, and Indonesia, and will take similar steps in the U.S., quote, in the coming weeks. The company said that it will explore a way to rank political content using different signals than it previously used. Content from government agencies and health organizations, however, will be exempt from the changes. Facebook said political content makes up only about 6% of what U.S. users see. The company said it plans to survey people as it tests these changes. So we will see there what happens there. I think if people want to post political content and it's making your site get more viewers maybe or more interactions, why would you stop? That's just not a smart financial decision. I understand if you're mad that it caused the riot at the Capitol, but making it to where people can't post the one kind of content they're there to post, why would they stick with your platform at that point? Why would they keep going to Instagram and Facebook, which are both owned by Facebook, by the way? Why would there wouldn't be a reason for them to if you take away their ability to post the content that they want to post. Okay, so now we're going to talk about if Trump ever tries to run for office again, which he might not be able to depending on how the impeachment goes, he will not be unbanned from Twitter. This is a CNN Business article. Trump's CFO says Trump's ban is permanent even if he runs for office again. Former President Donald Trump will not be permitted back on Twitter even if he runs again for office and wins, according to the company's chief financial officer. Asked during an interview on CNBC Wednesday whether Trump's tweeting privileges could be restored if he wins the presidency again, CFO Ned Siegel clarified that Trump's ban is permanent. Quote, "The way our policies work, when you are removed from their platform, you are removed from the platform. Whether you're a commenter, you're a CFO, or you are a former or current public official. Remember, our policies are designed to make sure that people are not inciting violence. And if anyone does that, we have to remove them from the service, and our policies don't allow people to come back." The statement comes amid Trump's impeachment trial in Congress. If he is acquitted, Trump will not be barred from seeking the presidency or another federal office. Twitter took the unprecedented steps of banning Trump last month after some of Trump's supporters stormed the U.S. Capitol. At the time, Twitter said it was permanently suspending Trump due to the risk of further incitement of violence. By the time of the crackdown, Twitter has already temporarily locked Trump's account over several tweets that is said to contribute to an elevated risk of violence. So if Trump ever runs for public office again, he will not be able to campaign on Twitter, and he will not be able to reach out to his supporters and his constituents on Twitter. I have a feeling that knowing that Twitter has an official government account, even if you have 200 followers on Twitter, if you run for public office with like a high party or with a party, you are verified. Let me think of the name. I was looking at this earlier actually before when I was researching this. Who was it? Lee Murphy for Congress. He has 268 followers on Twitter. He was the Republican candidate for Delaware Congress, and he is verified. So that is because he was a candidate. Here, I'll put this up on the screen for you watching on YouTube. Lee Murphy for Congress in Delaware. Delaware candidate for U.S. Congress, train conductor, father, mentor, coach. Delaware, 249 following, 268 followers. And he has that coveted blue check mark. It's actually white on my screen because I have dark mode turned on, but kind of interesting that he won't be allowed back on the platform if he does win office again. So Tesla invests $1.5 billion into Bitcoin and plans to start accepting it as payment. Now, this is obviously not political. In a filing with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the company said it bought the Bitcoin for, quote, more flexibility to further diversify and maximize returns on our cash. Tesla also said it will start accepting payments in Bitcoin in exchange for its products, quote, subject to applicable laws and initially on a limited basis. That will make Tesla the first major automaker to do so. It's pretty cool that they are diversifying, especially knowing that that Elon Musk has been propping up cryptocurrency and stock trading these past few weeks on Twitter. He could literally tweet out the name of any stock and it would skyrocket. I think he was someone that helped contribute with the GameStop madness. He's currently doing that with Dogecoin and Bitcoin, as we see here. Kind of interesting to see where that will go. So Jen Psaki, I don't know how you pronounce her last name. So as we know, Biden's trying to reopen schools. Trump's plan, once again, plagiarist Joe strikes again. And she says schools that are schools with in-person classes 1 day a week count as reopened. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was asked Tuesday to clarify President Joe Biden's plan to reopen K-8 schools within 100 days of his presidency. At an afternoon press conference, a reporter asked Psaki to help us understand the White House's or the president's definition of open school. Quote, doesn't mean teachers in classroom, teaching students in classrooms. It doesn't mean kids in classrooms with a remote screen. Help us understand, he asked. Psaki said that Biden's goal was to have the majority of schools, meaning more than 50%, open by day 100 of his presidency, which would be April 30th. That means some teaching in classrooms, so at least one day a week. Hopefully it will be more. And obviously it is as much as is safe. It is as much as it is safe to teach in each school and local district. That was very difficult to read. The reporter asked Psaki what she meant by, quote, some teaching, to which Psaki replied, teaching at least one day a week in the majority of schools by day 100. So one day a school open, one day a week school open is considered open. What? I think open means 5 days a week, the majority of the day, or majority of the week, so 3 days or more. That would be what I think when I think of majority, at least. I don't know. I'm not Jen Psaki. I don't know. So a slight update on the U.S. Senate race in Ohio. Like I said, I'm going to try to update this every week if anything big happens. Josh Mandel, he was the former state treasurer and two-time failed U.S. Senate candidate, has announced his third run for Senate to replace Rob Portman. No Democrats have announced their candidacy yet. Another mess, I should have brought this up when we were talking about the Trump lawyers to begin with. Trump's lawyers admitted he lost in this impeachment trial. One of the lawyers heading former President Donald Trump's defense of the second impeachment trial did what Trump himself has not, conceded Joe Biden won the presidential election. In opening remarks Tuesday, lawyer Bruce Castor added, the American people just spoke and they just changed administrations. He added that Americans are smart enough to pick a new administration if they don't like the old one, and they just did. The comments by Castor, a former county prosecutor in Pennsylvania, were a surprising contrast to Trump's defiance. The former president repeatedly disputed the claims results in the election, falsely claiming he, quote, won in a landslide and that he kept the baseless claims through the end of his presidency, including during his speech at a rally that preceded the January 6th riot, obviously, yada, yada, yada. So, I don't know what Trump's doing. We obviously haven't heard from him really, and besides these few press releases from the 45th, the office of Donald J. Trump, we haven't heard much from him since, other than that. So I don't know if this is part of the plan. I'm not saying like Q plan, but part of his plan. I don't believe in QAnon. I don't. It's false. But if it's part of his plan, we will find out and have to. I keep saying this. Have to wait and see, because we never really know what's going to play out until it plays out. And I can sit here and make predictions all day. I can say, oh yeah, he's going to concede. It's going to make him look better, so he'll be acquitted, and then he's going to run again. That's obviously a very outlandish claim with no sort of factual basis behind it. I could say, oh, he's conceding, he's never going to run again, won't ever hear from him again, yada, yada. That's not true, because obviously his lawyers, I think they get 16 hours tomorrow to try to defend their client. They like 16 hours tomorrow, I think. So obviously he's not going to stay silent. We really don't know what's going to happen here. I would say if any theory was more true, it would be the first one, but we'll have to wait and see. We will have to just watch it play out, and I will be here commentating it all for you all. This gets me really upset. So, as you guys know, out through the election, I was telling you guys, get out, knock doors, make phone calls for your local candidates as well as President Trump. And this is why. The GOP was only 32,000 votes away, shy of a House majority in 2020. So, Dave Wasserman tweeted, and Anthony Brissendi has conceded to Claudia Tenney in New York's 22nd Congressional District. Final 2020 House results, 222 Democrats, 213 Republicans. Republicans came within 31,751 votes of winning the majority. Breitbart reports Tenney's Empire State victory over Brissendi, the final undecided House race in the nation, gives Democrats in the House a slim majority of 9 seats. With Tenney's victory cemented and all totals finalized for the 2020 election, Republicans flipped 15 House seats held by Democrats. Tenney defeated Brissendi by a razor-thin margin of 109 votes. The slim difference in the amount of votes cast for Republicans in the 2020 election as compared to that of Democrats is significant because more than 152 million total votes were cast in House races last year. The The difference is votes cast for GOP candidates compared to votes cast for Democrats in 2020 House elections is less than 0.1%. Democrats were not as successful when it came to flipping House seats, as they were only able to flip 3, 2 of which were in the state of North Carolina. That's really unfortunate for Republicans, who were 31,000 votes away from having Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy. 31,000. Get out and vote. I have said this so many times over the past part of the election. Get out, and this is talking about 2022, of course. If you have local races in 2021, like mayoral races or any of that, get out and knock doors for your Republican candidate there. They will greatly appreciate your support. In 2022, gubernatorial elections, like if you're in Arkansas, go out and knock doors for Sarah Huckabee Sanders. In Ohio, if someone challenges Mike DeWine, I'll be out there for that. And I will also be out there for congressional candidates, of course. All of the states that have gubernatorial elections, Senate elections, House elections, get out there and knock doors, get out and make sure you vote. Your vote is so important in this country. So Marjorie Taylor Greene is no longer on a committee assignment. So here are the 11 Republicans, I'm going to try not to butcher their names, who voted to remove her from her committee assignments. Diaz Balart, Fitzpatrick, Jimenez, Jacobs of New York, Katko, Kim of California, Kinzinger, Malatakis, Salazar, Smith of New Jersey, and Upton. So keep those on your record there for 2022. I don't believe that the majority should be able to set a precedent where you can remove any member of the minority from their committee assignments, because what's going to happen if we take back the House in 2022? The Chicago's Teachers Union, this is good news, is finally going back to work. I know, surprising. The Chicago Teachers Union has approved a deal with the nation's third largest school district to get students back to class early during the coronavirus pandemic, union officials announced early Wednesday. The vote by the union's roughly 25,000 members ends the possibility of an immediate teacher lockout or strike. The agreement follows months of negotiation, which had intensified in recent weeks, with plans that included more teacher vaccinations and metrics to allow school closures when COVID-19 infections spike. The union said 13,681 members voted to approve the agreement and 6,500 voted against it. In a statement, the unions described the agreement as the absolute limit to which CPS was willing to go to the bargaining table to guarantee a minimum number of guardrails for any semblance of safety in schools. So finally, teachers' unions are finally getting over themselves and getting back to work, which is really important. You need to get back to work if you are a teacher. If your administration says it's safe to get back to work, get back to work. If it's not safe, if you're on if they're even then, that will help with herd immunity. If there's every person in your city has COVID, maybe you should just tone it down for a little bit. But that by then, herd immunity's already spread. You're fine. You're fine by that point. There isn't really scientific evidence to lock down schools. And even Biden is realizing this. The teachers union is going against Biden. They're going against Biden. Wow. So one last article I want to talk about. So Ron DeSantis went to the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay. I don't care about football, to be completely honest. This is an article reported by the Daily Caller. Republican Florida Governor Ron DeSantis defended the photo showing him maskless at a Sunday Super Bowl in Tampa. Someone said, "Hey, you were at the Super Bowl with a mask." DeSantis told reporters Monday, according to Politico's Mark Cuban. "But how the heck am I going to be able to drink a beer with a mask on? Come on, I had to watch the Bucs win." The image showing DeSantis sitting down without a mask in Raymond James Stadium while talking to an unknown individual less than 6 feet away from him. A second person is seen wearing a black mask in the suite next to DeSantis. Tampa's mayor said she was frustrated that the Buccaneers fans did not social distance Sunday night while celebrating in large crowds following the team's victory, according to the Associated Press. Quote, "It's a little frustrating because we have worked so hard. At this point in dealing with COVID-19, there is a level of frustration when you see that." So, before the big game, Castor ordered a mask mandate throughout the entire city, which will require face coverings in indoor areas. She claimed that there had been a 900% increase in the last month. The number of virus cases in Florida have reached 1.7 million and surpassing 27,000 deaths, according to the New York Times. Props to Ron DeSantis. Let's just say I would like to see him run in 2020 for president, or 2024, I'm sorry. I would love to cast my first vote for Ron DeSantis. I'd vote for him in a primary. Depending on who runs. I could think of some more ideal candidates. Not really, though. If Ted Cruz was to run, I'd probably vote for Ted Cruz first and then Ron DeSantis, but that's probably about it. Ron DeSantis is so epic. That's it for today's episode. Thank you for tuning in. You can follow me, or subscribe to the podcast, I should say, on Apple Podcasts. You can follow on every other platform. You can subscribe on YouTube, GOP Josh, Rumble, GOP Josh. YouTube actually has exclusive video clips throughout the week, so you can check those out there on YouTube exclusively. Follow me on Instagram, GOP_Josh, and my Twitter is GOPJosh20. Thanks for listening. See you guys next week.